Hi, this is Callie from Liberate Justice Entertainment here with Mike XVX at the Mercy for Animals benefit show at the Black Flame, also by Punk Not Profit. What's up, Mike? How are you tonight?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Right on. Who are you? Well, we already said that. Where are you from?
I grew up in Santa Barbara, California, so just on the cusp of being Southern Californian and technically living on the Central Coast, but I've lived all over California and now I live in Oregon.
Nice. Well, where can people find your music?
I have a Bandcamp up with all of my releases on it, and it's mikexvx.bandcamp.com, and I also have Facebook and several other time wasters on social media, so I'm sure you can find me there.
Right on. How would you describe your sound?
I like to describe it as acoustic anarcho-punk because I play acoustic music in a way that I'd like to think of as in a traditional vein, but I also have some anarcho influences, bands like Crass and Rudimentary Peni and bands like that. So being an anarchist and carrying a heavy anarchist message in my music, I like to describe it that way.
Right on. What are your personal influences?
I got into playing acoustic music from listening to bands like Woody Guthrie, Utah Phillips, Blaze Foley, a lot of the old-timey folk musicians, and what inspired me most about them is that they were these people that were living through destitute times and living through a lot of adversity, and they're basically the mouthpieces of their generation, and people like Woody Guthrie, who lived through the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression and things like that. He was telling these stories of people that didn't have a platform to tell the stories themselves, and so he was a great social justice activist, and he got the word out about a lot of things that were going on, a lot of the injustices that happened across the United States during that period of time. And I'd like to think that I do that now for things that are relevant in my time, which are animal rights. And, animal rights are on the forefront of a lot of political debates, and documentaries like Blackfish have come out recently talking about SeaWorld and things like that. And it's a hot topic right now. A lot of celebrities are talking about animal rights, about veganism and things like that. And so I'd like to think that I'm writing music that's indicative of the generation that I'm part of, and I think the things that are important to me, which are fighting for the liberation of all species, and primarily animals, which are one of the most oppressed groups in the world right now.
Definitely. Well, how did your band, or like I would say, like your project form? How did you get started doing all that?
Yeah, I grew up in a town that didn't have a lot of vegan people in it, and we especially didn't have anyone that was vegan and straight edge. And so I had this desire to start a vegan straight edge band because I grew up listening to bands like Seven Generations and Gather and all these other bands from Southern California that were pretty prominent at the time. And I just didn't have a lot of friends that were both interested in animal liberation and also able to play instruments. And so I started writing acoustic music just because I was one person, and I figured, well, if I'm only one person, I still want to be able to play music that has a political message. And at the time, there's a lot of bands that that I enjoyed that were acoustic, but they were all about personal issues, and it's all about petty and shallow relationships that people had. And I was just like, well, acoustic music kind of has lost its teeth in the past decade or so, and so I felt like I wanted to write really radical music that was a little bit different from the punk music that I grew up playing. And so I started playing acoustic music, and it was really only supposed to be a temporary thing, but people liked it, and people kept inviting me to play shows, and it kind of just grew from there. So
well, I play the acoustic guitar and the electric guitar, and I sing and stuff like that, but no matter what, like, I always feel like the acoustic is more like from the heart, because that's you just like sitting alone in a room, like coming up with a song, and it's just like, it's so personal and stuff, and I think it reaches out to people too, definitely, it's really good. Right on. Well, do you have any upcoming events, songs, shows, or EPs?
I just released a new album earlier this year called The World for All Species, and you can check that out on my Bandcamp. And I have a tour coming up in the fall, actually starting in September, and I'll be touring Europe again. I'm touring with a friend of mine, Gab De La Vega. He's from Italy, and I'll be his supporting act. And we have about 10 different countries that we'll be going through so far, but the tour for me is starting at the Luxembourg International Animal Rights Conference, which is one of the reasons I'm able to go out there is because they invited me to come out and play and perform during their conference. So I'll be doing that first, and then hitting the road with Gab and playing some shows.
Nice. Well, where else have you toured?
I've toured Australia a few years ago, and I went there for about 2 months. And I toured Europe once before with this guy, True Nature, and we were out there for 2 months as well. And that was a really long tour. That was about 14 countries in 2 months, and so that was pretty hectic and
Wow,
and
I can only
tiring.
imagine. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and it was a really great experience. And I really liked everyone that we toured with, though. And I've also toured the U.S. several times, about 6 or 7 times, and Canada, I've done a few tours there as well, but it's a little bit more difficult to tour there because the cities are spaced so far apart. So
Yeah.
I normally just go up and play a couple of shows and then I come back home.
Right on. Well, how's your recording process been like?
It's been pretty tiring. It's a little difficult because I'm just one person. Sometimes I have people that come and accompany me, but a lot of the time when I record, I'll record all the instruments myself, and
Wow.
oftentimes that's guitar, drums, bass, cello,
Wow.
melodica, keyboards, things like that. I mean, I only ever use acoustic instruments for my recordings, but
Nice.
it's a little difficult because, you know, sometimes I'm recording by myself and I'm just in a room, and, you know, a lot of you can hear a lot of the outtakes where I mess up and I'm just cussing and swearing, and you know, it's a difficult process, but it's one that I have a lot of respect for when people can do it well, because it's a lot different than playing live when you know, you can connect with people and you interact with people, and that kind of gives you more of a drive to perform well. And then, you know, when you're in a room or in a sound booth by yourself and you just have the engineers sitting there watching you, sometimes it can be a little bit like even more nerve-wracking than actually playing a show for other people. So it's something that it took me a little bit of time to get used to. It's kind of like listening to the answering machine at home and you know,
Yeah.
cringing when you hear your voice, like,
Yeah.
I don't sound like that.
Right, yeah.
So it's just something, I mean, if anybody's ever out there that is recording and they feel weird about it, the only advice I can give is just bite the bullet and just get through it. I mean,
Right.
it may sound different to you than it does to other people, so yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel about my demo. I'm like, oh my gosh, but then when everyone hears it, they're like, oh, you sound so good. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? I sound like I'm on the phone.
You want to argue with them too? You're like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it's terrible. Just listen to this part. Yeah.
Right on. Well, how do you see yourself in a year, like with your music?
Probably just doing what I've been doing for the past 6 or 7 years, just playing small shows like this one for like-minded people. I mean, I get the opportunity to travel a lot of really great places and meet a lot of really cool folks all over the world. So, you know, it's something that I really enjoy doing, and you know, playing music is a passion. It's not just a job, and it's not something that pays you. Oftentimes, I lose a lot of money touring, and it's just something that if you don't love it, you know, you can't continue on doing it, because there's just, you know, there's the joys of performing in front of people and connecting with folks that, you know, care about animals or care about, you know, different social justice movements, and, you know, it's a great opportunity. So I just see myself meeting new friends and meeting new folks that I get along with, want to organize with, want to play music with, and that's just something that I aspire to do, is just make more connections with like-minded people, and, you know, just have my friendships grow and my relationships blossom into really amazing things. And I think that's a realistic goal, and I think it's something that is easily attainable. So I'm just going to continue on for that.
Definitely. Well, what would you like to say to your fans before you sign off?
Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much to all the friends that have supported me over the years, bought my CDs, come to my terrible shows, and listen to my really bad dad jokes on set. And yeah, just keep fighting for the rights of animals. We'll get there one day. Just like everything, it takes time, it takes a lot of sacrifice. One day, all species will be free, and that's just something that we need to keep aspiring for and fighting for. So thank you.
Definitely. Well, this is Callie from Liberate Justice Entertainment signing out with Mike XVX. Later.